So hello, everyone, and welcome to Facility Resilience, the podcast where we discuss facility design and maintenance in addition to business continuity and resilience strategies. I'm your host, Jennifer Getz, and today I'm joined by Bruce McIndoe, president and founder of McIndoe Risk Advisories. Bruce, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're so excited for your presentation coming up at the Continuity Insights Management Conference, which is taking place later this month from April 28th through the 30th. So to get started, I would love to learn a little bit more about your experience in the business continuity and resilience space.
Like a lot of practitioners that I have met with and worked with, I come from adjacent discipline. So, my education, just to make it even crazier, my undergrad is in high energy physics, and my master's at Johns Hopkins, I shifted from physics to computer science. And early in my career, I got to work at NASA. And that's really where I cut my teeth on failure mode analysis and high reliability systems and hardware and software. When you throw an instrument up in space, you don't get to go reload software, right? So that was the early start. And then for 15 years, I worked in the intelligence community and actually was the CEO of an engineering company that I started there called CSSI. And in that environment, again, we were developing collection systems and intelligence systems. Many that operated in austere environments had to operate autonomously or with high reliability. And so this concept of all of this was brought home to me about, how things, need to be resilient and be able to continue to survive and operate. And then when I left the intelligence community, I started a commercial private intelligence and global crisis response company. And that's where that experience then molded around. We worked with, global 3,000 companies and through the entire life cycle of monitoring threats, understanding the risks, trying to make sure that we're prepared to deal with that eventuality if it happens, which brought in the business continuity. But then when it did happen, response and recovery. And so really got a lot of experience working with hundreds of companies over those 20 years about how companies, unfortunately, didn't do that very well. And so when that company was sold, it's now called Crisis 24, I started my own company and have been working with organizations that are interested in retooling and rethinking how do they approach operational resiliency in their business in a coherent and unified way rather than siloed operations, which is typically what you find.
So for your session at Continuity Insights this year, you'll be discussing General McChrystal's Team of Teams theory. So as a preview for our attendees and for our audience interested in learning more, can you tell us a little bit more about this theory and how it applies to business continuity?
Yeah, I like you're using the term theory because that's actually really important. The philosophy, this is a philosophy, right? And so because of that, it's not a rigid model. You want to give it kind of wide interpretation of how do you want to take these concepts and apply them to a specific business or mission or operation. So again, that's important. And when you're transitioning from what I'm arguing most organizations operate in siloed operations, a team of teams model requires a strategic shift in the organization's culture, its leadership, its processes, and it's not something that can be fully accomplished bottom up. And that's the major impediment when you come in and talk to business resilience, business continuity professionals, or on the security, cyber side, or environmental health and safety. None of these areas, these disciplines feel empowered to push this up. And, we can talk more, and part of the sessions will be on how do you address that and make incremental progress toward that. So that's that piece. But the objective in this whole thing is to shift down to what I would call, move from this top-down command and control model to a democratized, competent teams model, multidisciplinary teams. And the premium you're putting on that is collaboration toward a common goal. And the application of this, like in business continuity, is that business continuity doesn't stand alone. And so if it doesn't stand alone, how does it cooperate with other disciplines or functions within the business, and how do you bring that together, not in a static structure, because each team, is made up of people that have roles on that particular team. But I still have my job description and my position for HR and everything. But how I operate is there could be like the monitoring, GSOC team, and I could have a role in there, but I can also have a role in the preparedness and business continuity planning and help with BIAs and all that kind of stuff. And so I can have a position in the company, but the way that I work is I work on multiple teams in different, maybe the same role or different roles. And that gives great value to the employee, because now they can let me go try and help out with business continuity planning on this particular team that's dealing with, let's say, a new facility or whatever. And so I can kind of try out things and feel things. I'm not changing my position. I'm still, senior engineer or whatever. But now I get to try and learn and expand my capabilities in different areas and become more multidisciplinary and more fungible, we call it, where as demand comes from the organization, I can fill those demands and not be pigeonholed that I'm just, a business continuity person. And that is going to be incredibly important in the short years ahead, when AI and robotics completely upends where are humans needed. And it's going to be dynamic, it's going to change, and it's going to ebb and flow as these capabilities come online. But through this model, people can be more resilient themselves in offering and learning and delivering capability to the organization. So that's the big, hairy, audacious goal.
That's great insight and a great point about how people can just in the BC space can build their own resilience within their roles.
100%.
It helps both the organization and really the individual at the same time.
And the thing I loved about when I got involved with business continuity, and as much as I think in the agile business continuity, throw out the BIA. Oh, I don't think you want to do that. Maybe you want to throw out the BIA in the way that it's being handled. But one of the key value adds that a business continuity professional brings to the table is the understanding of how these processes impact and can impact the business. That's the goal. Matter of fact, you can survive without a plan. And I would say I think most companies around COVID survived without a plan, right? Yeah. But you can't survive if you don't know what matters to the business and right. What we need to focus on and what are the priorities and what are the potential impacts, so you know where to invest in deterring or mitigating that happening. And then if it does happen, make sure that you're ready for that loss. So I always enjoy working with the business because they're the ones that are kind of more mired in the business context than the other disciplines. Absolutely.
This has been great. Some excellent insight. So now with your presentation at Continuity Insights, what would you like attendees to take away from your presentation on this topic?
So I have I would say kind of twofold objective, right? Mm-hmm. So one is to kind of vision the audience forward to what a combined, unified approach to operational resilience would look like and articulate the benefits to the organization, the mission, and as we talked, the personnel that are committed to achieving that mission, right? So that's important. And in my presentation, I love the quote from Stephen Covey that says, begin with the end in mind. So that's the end. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to move into, okay, is this model fit your organization? What are some key things that you should think about to even try to push this, right? And here's 7 steps you can go through to start actually implementing this in a small modular unit to kind of prove out, get a feel for it within kind of what your span of control is, and hopefully take that to the organization and say, look how this is working. We could actually scale this throughout the organization in other objectives that we're trying to achieve or other areas that have, their own discrete mission. And here's all the benefits of that. And so in finalizing this is the story that I use around COVID-19. Go tell your senior management, you know what? We already did this. In COVID-19, what did you guys do? You brought together the experts that this existential threat, who can save the business? You pulled them together. You gave them all access data. You shortened communications. You shortened the decision making and said, save the business. And they did that together. They came up with solutions. They deployed them. If it worked, they scaled them. If they didn't, they came back and tweaked it again and put it out there or changed it based on what was happening in the environment. It was an agile team. And then we got through COVID-19. Yay! Go back to your corners. So instead of institutionalizing that is the team of teams model, they blew it away. And all we're trying to do is bring back and say, you already knew that was the right answer. Let's institutionalize it. That's the message of the session.
We're so excited to have you, and we're so excited. So to our audience listening, title of his session is Organizational Resilience. It's a team of team sport, and you'll be at 9:45 a.m. on Monday, April 28th. So,
be there or be square.
Be there or be square. Bruce, thank you so much for joining me. To our audience, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode of Facility Resilience.